Hello and welcome to Neophyte.tv, the technology show for the not-so-geeky. My name is Ben Friedman, and we've kind of got a special show today. I've received quite a bit of email from folks over the last couple of months, people who know that I'm a video editor by trade, and a lot of them are fairly upset with what Apple has done recently with Final Cut Pro 10. A lot of you may know that we use Final Cut Pro 7, which was, oddly enough, the most recent version of Final Cut before Final Cut Pro 10. They went straight from 7 to 10. And the problem is that with Final Cut Pro 10, they've actually taken away a lot of the features that professional editors like myself that do this for a living really need to use. For instance, for Neophyte, we use the multicam feature a lot, and there is no multicam feature on Final Cut Pro 10. So when you see us cutting back and forth between our shots, that's using a thing called multicam editing, and you can't do that in Final Cut Pro 10, but you could do it in the old version with Final Cut Pro 7. But Apple has said, that's it, no more Final Cut Pro 7, there won't be any more updates, we're not going to be selling it anymore once our inventory runs out, and basically you're out of luck. So I've told a lot of these people by email that I'm switching over to Adobe Premiere, at least until Final Cut Pro, maybe the new version will catch up and put some of these features back in. Adobe Premiere CS 5.5 is a lot like Final Cut Pro 7, but it's 64-bit, it's faster, it handles mixed format video better, and it's actually quite an easy transition from one to the other. So we've been enjoying Premiere Pro with this for the last month or two, but then another issue came up, and that is that we needed to buy some new hardware because some of our Apple Mac Pros are getting old. So we thought, well, if we're using Adobe, why not go and buy Windows? Adobe is cross-platform. You can use it on Windows and you can use it on Mac, and it goes back and forth quite easily. So we thought maybe we should be looking at seeing what's available on the Windows platform, because generally Windows hardware is a little bit less expensive and more customizable than Mac hardware. And this is where we ran into one of our big issues, is that when you go to buy a Mac, you walk into an Apple store, or you go online, and there is only one desktop. It's called the Mac Pro, or one desktop tower, I should say. It's called the Mac Pro. And there's only a couple of options you can get, the hard drive size and how much memory, but generally it's one box, and there's 2 or 3 configurations, and it's very easy to buy. Not so on the Windows side. On the Windows side, you've got 20 different brands that you can buy if you want to go with one of the big box shops like Dell or HP or Acer. And then you've got all different kinds of options. If you want to build something custom, you can choose your case, choose your power supply, choose your CPU, your cooling system, choose your memory, your video card, which hard drives. And a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to have to deal with all those choices. I'm just going to go buy a box from Dell or from HP or from one of those places. Well, that wasn't a good enough answer from us, because when you buy something from Dell or HP, you may not be getting everything you need. So what we did is we went back to one of our long-term sponsors, Puget Systems, who have provided us with computers before and sponsored the show before, and we thought we'd ask him, John Bach, who is the president of Puget, to put together a system for us that would be great for someone who is going to be transitioning from a Mac to PC. So we have here connected by Skype today, John. John, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you. This is kind of fun doing a Skype connection. I know it's not as good as having you in the studio, but you are up in Washington right now, where it's a lot cooler than us down here in Arizona.
Yeah, it's raining today.
We wish it was raining down here. But let's dive right into this. I have one of your computers here that you put for us, the Puget Genesis system, and we'll get into that in a little moment. But tell me, why is it that people shouldn't just buy a system from HP or from Dell? They've got these pre-configured boxes that you can buy just like you would at Apple. Why not just go to Dell and buy one of their systems?
Well, I think you really hit on the main topics in your introduction. You talk about going from the Mac platform to Windows. You're immediately given tons and tons of choices, lots of things to choose from, and that's great, because that means you can get a computer that is suited well for you. You're not paying for things you don't need, and you're only buying the things you do need. That's really efficient, and it makes for a high-performance computer. So if you're going to the PC platform, why go with a manufacturer that stays with that big box mentality of one size fits all? So the reason I would encourage you to take a look at custom builders is because we can take advantage of the whole ecosystem of the PC platform and build a computer that is tailored for you.
Well, that's true. And again, you can get what you want, in the system, and you don't have to pay for things you don't need, which you might sometimes do in a in one of these big box stores. So tell me a little bit about this system here, the Puget Genesis. What is this system designed for, and who's its target?
Yeah, well, we built that system from the ground up. We designed it for use for content creation. That could be anything from video editing, post-production work, visual effects, CAD design. It's really intended to be a workhorse of a workstation.
Well, that's great. It's certainly beautiful, and in fact, it looks very, very nice. You guys, when you put them together here, you route all the cables properly and everything. It looks gorgeous. Let me spin this around here so people can see the inside. Let's maybe take a look at a few different components here. Obviously, we've got an Intel CPU in here with a cooling system, and you guys take care of all that stuff so people don't need to worry about what cooling to put in, what kind of RAM to put in. I noticed one thing is very configurable on here is the hard drives. You've got all kinds of hard drive bays that you can put in there. If someone's putting together a video editing system, what do you guys recommend for the hard drive configuration?
Well, that therein lies another strength of a custom builder. We really need to talk to each client and find out, well, what is it you're doing and what kind of editing and what size of files you're working with and what are you exporting to? Is it for YouTube? Are you making Blu-ray discs or what are you doing? For the most part, though, with video editing, I mean, everything's HD these days, and HD means huge, enormous files, and hard disks are cheap. And so it was important to us that we designed Genesis to have a lot of capacity for hard drives, so you aren't running out of space with all those HD files.
You talk about hard drives being inexpensive. So in this system, we've got one hard drive for our operating system, but then we've also got 4 hard drives, because you're right, they are inexpensive these days. We've got 4 hard drives set up as RAID 0. 2 of those hard drives are our export projects, and 2 of them is the working projects.
Exactly.
What are the advantages to using a RAID in this setup? Obviously, one advantage is it's very cheap. You can buy these terabyte hard drives for 70 or 80 bucks, put them together in a RAID. Why would someone do that?
Well, it's all about eliminating bottlenecks. It doesn't do you any good to have a really high-performance CPU and a really high-performance video card rendering this video if you can't if you don't have the bandwidth in your hard drives to save it at that speed. And so it's all about splitting up the functionality. It's about keeping your operating system and your programs on one hard drive. They can't affect the speed of the export or the read process for your source files. Then you have another volume for your source files, and then another volume for your exports, and then make sure that you aren't running into bottlenecks with all those disks. Now, RAID takes you even to the next level. By having multiple disks together, you're adding up their throughput, and that gives you the speed you need to write even those HD files just as fast as your processor can put them out.
Right. So let's, well, actually, before we get off of hard drives, let me ask you one question. A big debate that I see talked about on the forums a lot is whether or not you should put a solid state drive, an SSD, in as your primary boot drive. When we got this system from you, you gave us all the bells and whistles, so this one does have a solid state drive in it. What are the pros and cons of putting a solid state drive in as your system drive?
Well, it's certainly faster, and if you can afford the SSD, it's definitely worth putting in. Booting up Windows is faster. Booting up your programs is faster. The whole interface just feels more snappy. But there are downsides. The cost is higher, and the capacity is much lower. So you definitely wouldn't use an SSD to store your source files. So there just isn't enough space for that. But for your OS drive, it can be worthwhile. It won't improve your rendering time because your rendering is all going to depend on your source files and then your export disk. But for getting around the user interface and booting up Windows, booting up your programs, an SSD can speed things up.
So for booting up and launching applications, you're going to see a speed increase there, but it's really not going to affect your editing experience.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, I think, we paid a couple of $100 extra for that SSD, and it's small. It's only 300 gigs or something compared to a couple of terabytes that you could have gotten for half the price. But I do notice that the whole system boots up in about 20 seconds. It's very fast. And Premiere boots up very, very quickly, much, much faster than my old Mac Pro.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on then from hard drives. Let's talk about video card. Again, with PCs, and here's the video card on this huge behemoth that's installed in the computer here. Again, with an Apple, you only have a choice of a couple of different video cards, but with PCs, you've got all kinds of different cards and choices and different companies you can buy them from. What's important to someone who's running Adobe Premiere?
Well, you want to have a video card that is officially supported by Adobe Premiere. And for the most part, what you're looking for is OpenGL support. Now, OpenGL support is on almost any video card today, but Adobe has gone a step further, and in CS5 they have the Mercury engine, and it's an amazing speed up to the workflow process. But you have to have an NVIDIA video card. So you do need to take a look at the compatibility list for Adobe Premiere, and going with a custom builder like us, we can look at the compatibility list for you and make sure you get the right card. It needs to have plenty of memory, over a gig of memory. So these days, the NVIDIA GTX 570 or 580 is a good choice for a professional level editor.
Okay, and of course, you guys build systems with those kind of cards all the time, so you know how to hook them up and put them all together. Let me ask you, we're running a little short on time here, so let me really ask you then, if someone does want to go with a custom builder, why would someone buy from Puget rather than one of the other builders that are out there?
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to the quality of the product and the quality of the service. Now, that's a line I think you're going to hear from a lot of companies, so it's important they're able to back it up. You take a look at our testimonials, either on our website or on a third-party site like Reseller Ratings, and you can just look at hundreds and hundreds of pages of customers who can testify to the quality of our product. We take the time to do it right, and we don't cut corners. It's just a philosophy we take on business.
Yeah, something that's always amazed me about your site, John, is how detailed you guys get into tracking an order. So someone can go to your website, place an order for a system, and they can actually view it being built in real time right on your website. They can show components being installed. You can see when operating system bits are put on and tests are done, and you actually upload pictures and benchmarks and photos, and you can see when it's being packed up. When it goes through QA, when it goes to the shipping dock. I mean, it's a very detailed product. You know from the moment you order a system exactly where your computer is. Speak to that for a little bit.
Yeah, well, transparency is something that's very important to us as well. Partly because we have the ability to be transparent. Why not improve the customer experience? But also, it holds us accountable. We want to be a company that is always improving, and being real and honest and transparent with our customers is a great way to improve ourselves. So yeah, like you said, we offer the computer and thermal images we take the testing process, and all of the temperature levels, because it's important to us that you have that information to your PC.
Great. Well, this has been very educational. John, we're going to put up a website where people can go to find a system that's specifically tailored to someone who is switching from Final Cut to Premiere and switching from the Mac to the PC, or just wants to think about it. And we're going to put up a specific system just like this, or maybe a couple on a specific web page, and we'll put up that website right here underneath. So if you're interested in getting a system, or taking a look at a system that would be appropriate for you, having switched over from Final Cut and switching over from Mac to PC, go to this website, take a look, and see what the good folks at Puget can do for you. John, can we have you back to talk about laptops perhaps in a week or two? We'd love to get your opinion on that.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
You guys have the ability to build custom laptops as well.
Yeah, and that opens up a lot of opportunities for editing mobile as well. Right.
Well, we'll take a look at that in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, I want to thank John Bach from Puget Systems for joining us today. That's all the time we have this week, but go to the website, neophyte.tv. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about this whole debate between Final Cut 7 and Final Cut 10 and Adobe Premiere. Or go to our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/neophyte, and become a friend there to win some of the stuff we review. And if you have an extra 30 seconds, take a look at this. If you need to make recordings of your computer screen, there's no better tool than Camtasia from TechSmith. In fact, you're watching a screen recording of this video right now.
Camtasia can record your screen, your webcam, and high-quality audio at the same time. It's perfect for training, presentations, podcasts, or any time you need to show what's going on your computer.
Camtasia is easy to use, but it's also extremely powerful. You can turn your screen recordings into high-quality polished video in no time and share them with the world.
And Camtasia is available for the Mac and PCs. If you need to make screen recordings to educate, train, or sell, there's no better tool than Camtasia from TechSmith.